Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Sure appreciate you joining us. And don't forget, coming up next week, we're going to be in Washington, D.C. That's right. We're going to be there broadcasting, holding everybody's feet to the fire to make sure that we hold our politicians accountable when we're, just examining the news about immigration and the like. Now, we're going to have some fun this hour, and the fun this hour has to do with this situation involving this New York governor's debate, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. If you missed it, it was quite fascinating, and, here in America, we don't have these types of debates, but this is the governor of New York, Cuomo, versus Cynthia Nixon.
Why didn't you release your taxes in 2010 when you ran? You didn't release them until after the election. I did more. You kept moving the goalposts.
I've released them for 20
moving the goalposts and have a whole different set of rules for me than you have for you, and I don't think that's fair.
I've released them for 20 years.
Pretty heated. In fact, I'm going to try and find that on C-SPAN. That sounds like a great way to spend the weekend. You think you have trouble with your spouse? These folks sounded more like a married couple or people that just are going out on a bad date than really being serious about politics.
You don't snap your fingers as governor, and it happens.
Well, it will never happen if you empower the IDC
please, can you stop,
and give the Republicans control of the state Senate.
Can you please do that?
If you stop lying, I will stop interrupting.
Ouch. I can feel a Miller Minute from those two coming very soon. Okay, coming up, Liberty Linda and Mike Tracy. Do want to talk to Mike Tracy about a few things, but joining us now from the great state of North Carolina, the Tar Heel State, William Geen from Allipac. We've known Mr. Geen for many, many years, a champion of traditional American rights and values and traditional American citizenship. I guess maybe we have to start hyphenating what it means to be an American. Mr. Geen, good morning.
Glad to be back, Kevin. Hope the weather's better than the last time I was on with you in Idaho.
I'm with you. So let's examine the issues of the day. We have this fits right in with you, and serendipitously, let's just play this clip and we'll get your response. This is from Governor Cuomo from his big debate the other night.
New York State is the state that says we will not cooperate with ICE. They're a bunch of thugs.
Your thoughts?
Well, if you look at what the left is saying, the Democratic Party is just going further and further left. I mean, I tell people they're socialists because I feel that a large portion of the Democratic Party already qualifies as socialists, but, they actually elect socialists now. And you look at what they're saying, the socialists and the Democrats, they want to take immigration and customs enforcement, our border patrol, and our law enforcement and our entire court system apart. They see it as a type of, they call it a biased and racist colonial method of doing things that they feel is unfair to people of color, as too biased as people of color, and other things that they want to rebuild the United States in a new type of socialist utopia, which, of course, always, throughout history goes very wrong, at least for tens of millions or more people when they do it. So there's an attack across the country on our police officers and immigration and customs enforcement who, ICE, they're supposed to protect us from people. They're supposed to take people out of the country that could be here to harm us, like Molly Tibbetts, which was, the big hoo-ha last week was when the young lady from Iowa, who the search had been going on for I think 5 weeks. It turns out that she was abducted and killed by an illegal immigrant that shouldn't have been in the country in the first place. And that's, we work with a lot of the family members of victims of illegal immigrant crimes, and illegal alien crimes are very different than your regular run-of-the-mill crimes in America because they're 100% preventable. They're crimes that would not have happened, should not have happened, if our existing border and immigration laws were enforced like everybody wants or most normal people want, and like the United States Constitution requires. So that's one of the reasons that your producer reached out to me was because did you catch what happened between me and Facebook and Facebook and the Tibbetts family in the Washington Times?
Do tell for people that missed it.
Well, one of the Molly Tibbetts' an aunt made some comment on Facebook lecturing everyone saying, remember, evil comes in all colors, and a couple other things. And, you know, what I took from her comment and about a bunch of other people, I thought it was nicely worded, but she was basically trying to imply or infer or state that a lot of the concern about Molly Tibbetts' killer was based off his race or ethnicity as a Latino or Hispanic. And that really wasn't it for me and millions of us that are concerned about the laws. Where did the law fail Molly Tibbetts? And so I wrote what I thought was a fairly thoughtful opposite of hate speech comment, asking her, please do not make this about race. You can read it on my Facebook page. And then it's also in the Washington Times article, which is on my Facebook, Twitter pages, and at alipac.us. But please don't make this about race. You know, for a lot of us Americans, it's not about color or ethnicity. It's about you know, legal status and where our laws fail. We hope that, you know, we feel bad for your family during this time of grieving. I hope that you'll consider joining with the other angel families that work hard to prevent future Americans from being lost like Molly Tibbetts. And I went to bed that evening. It had been put up. I answered her on my page. I copied it to my Facebook page and went to bed. I got up next morning. I logged into Facebook. I was told my account was restricted for 24 hours. I could look around, but I couldn't post or say anything to anybody. And they had removed my post as hate speech. And so I press released the thing out. Breitbart News did a big article about it. Washington Times did a big article about it. At first, Facebook didn't answer anybody. And then they came rushing in and said, oh, we're sorry. We made a mistake. It wasn't hate speech. We have restored the post, which was a lie. They told the Washington Times, everybody, they restored my post. They never did. One of our moderators made a mistake in the millions of claims that we look at each week, blah, 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 blah. But the truth, what I believe the truth to be, Kevin, is, you know, if I wasn't the type of guy that could get in touch with Breitbart and the Washington Times, they would have knocked my post down, kept it down, which they did keep down. No one would have ever known anything about it. And this is a consistent pattern of behavior. Right now, Silicon Valley corporations like Twitter, Google, and Facebook are changing the debate. They have the power to influence the outcome of elections. Some studies believe they could swing the 10 to 12 million votes this way or that around the country, which is enough to change the outcome of you know, many different races in elections. They have the ability to change outcome on legislation, and they're using a pattern of censorship and what I believe to be an attack on American civil rights to do so. So one of the things that you're going to see AliPac focused on for the next many weeks running up in the run-up to the midterm elections is that we're going to be organizing Americans to lobby against and ask Congress to take action to protect our civil rights, because we don't want the country being run by a bunch of Silicon Valley socialist corporations. We don't want any Americans being targeted and having their freedoms of speech and ability to communicate, you know, disrupted. And I know people out there saying, well, these are companies, they can do what they want. You know, the phone company can do what it wants, but it can't tell me or you or anybody else how many calls we can make and what we can talk about when we're on the phone. Walmart can do what it wants as a company, but it can't say, hey, Republicans are going to pay $10 a gallon of paint and Democrats are going to pay $5. In the United States, we don't want people's Bill of Rights protections, the First Amendment, assaulted like Facebook, Twitter, and Google are doing. And we don't want people to be targeted based on their religion or their age or their creed. And, you know, my creed is I want the existing immigration laws in the United States enforced. Silicon Valley, Facebook, Twitter, and Google don't like that. And they've decided that my organization is not going to exist. They've cuddled up with the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center, which have been proven to be highly erroneous in their attacks on people. And they're trying to, you know, knock us down so they can control what everybody sees and hears. I don't know, was it the Twilight Zone or was it the Outer Limits, where they said they controlled the horizontal, the vertical, you know, what people were seeing and hearing. That's exactly where we've gone with these companies. They can control what information does and does not reach the eyes, ears, and minds of the American public. and they plan to use it to shift this country so far left it'll never come back like California.
And we see all the Californians moving their leftist agenda here. Some conservatives, but more leftists. William Geen, if people want to get involved, what can they do?
We really like your listener support at alipac.us. That's www.alipac.us. We're Americans for Legal Immigration Political Action Committee. It's going to take a lot of us working together to hold these Silicon Valley corporations accountable. And who knows, maybe some folks out there listening right now have had some conservative comments flagged or removed or have been treated unfairly by these companies and would like to join our national effort to rein this in and restore a spirit of freedom and both freedom and fairness for all Americans.
Mr. Geen, God bless. Always great to have you on here.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Mike Tracy, thank you for waiting since last hour. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. I just loved your last guest, and I loved that debate between Cynthia Nixon and Governor Cuomo. My only bit of sadness was that they didn't put it on network television so I could watch the entire 1 hour debate and laugh all night long at what the Democrat Party has become. The only reason there's any Democrats that get elected in Idaho is because there's small pockets of Democrats in the north end of Boise, Sun Valley, Latah County. If it wasn't for that, there wouldn't be a single Democrat elected in the state of Idaho this coming election. And if you look, we've got super majorities in both the House and the Senate. Every member of Congress is a Republican. Every constitutional officer is Republican. Literally, the Democrats have almost no elected offices, no elected seats in the state of Idaho. And you can't count the city elections because they're supposed to be nonpartisan, which we know they're not. But that being said, Cynthia Nixon and Andrew Cuomo, it was truly like watching a really, really bad marriage going even worse. It was hilarious. I watched the clips this morning on Fox News, and I wished I could have seen the entire 1 hour.
Well, I'll give you a secret. If you Google it, they do have the entire thing on YouTube.
Well, I will do that today. I just didn't have time. I only watched the clips so far. But if it had been on live last night, I would have watched it live.
You and me both.
And also, I wanted to compliment you on your courage to go back to the swamp next week. There's a reason they called it the swamp because, and there's a reason they have an August recess. Historically, there was no air conditioning, and in August was one of the worst months of the entire summer in terms of humidity, mosquitoes, and all of that. And as you know, maybe many people are not aware of this. Washington D.C. was built on a reclaimed swamp.
Right.
So when President Trump says drain the swamp, he literally is trying to drain the swamp, both rhetorically and physically. But you are very brave to go back at this time of year because even the first week of September is very, very hot and humid. But you're going to be there at a great time when we're going to start to see the debate for our next Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh move forward with his actual vote on his nomination.
Well, I can't wait to embrace the humidity.
Just stay cool and stay indoors.
Mike Tracy, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you, our great friend Mike Tracy. There she is, the topic of conversation very early this morning. Liberty Linda, good morning.
Really? Good morning. You know, Kevin, I understand they're really monkeying around in Florida.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy.
I said it. But I'm just talking about Florida.
Well,
not any person there.
Well, let me see if I can dig this up. For people that are not familiar with what Liberty Linda is referring to,
the last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state. That is not going to work. That's not going to be good for Florida.
There you have Congressman DeSantis saying don't monkey it up. Now, his opponent, Andrew Gillum, the mayor of Tallahassee, was not happy.
Yeah, that part wasn't lost on me. It's very clear that Mr. DeSantis is taking a page directly from the campaign manual of Donald Trump.
So he's mad. He's African-American. He believes that was, code word or something of that nature. Your thoughts, Liberty Linda?
Well, Mr. DeSantis didn't say anything negative about anyone else. He wasn't referring to that. And, you know, Kevin, we hear it all the time. They make something negative out of what somebody says, and then they turn it all around, and it ends up on our president. Now, I don't understand how they did that, but it did. It ended up being that our president was a bad person. He's a negative person. And, you know, I'm watching the television. I'm wondering, how did they do this? I don't know. Anyway, socialism, you know, I don't think I even heard that word when I was a young girl growing up. It's a word that, you know, I don't think I was even familiar with.
Sure.
You know? And so, however, since I've grown up, that word can carry a nation into communism. That's what I worry about. And we hear it all the time today. So anyway, it's like I'm still asleep and dreaming, and then I think, oh, well, is this a nightmare? So is it a nightmare that we're going through right now?
It's a nightmare if we don't wake up that could become real.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Every day we wake up to another nightmare, and usually it ends up with Donald Trump. And you know, it's like, how do they do it? And then they keep on doing it, you know, from every news that comes out. They say the same thing until people believe that's what's going on in our nation. Anyway, I don't understand how they can turn everything into a negative that our president, toward our president. And for what you're talking about this morning, New York,
yes.
Every time you see a Democrat, they talk over a Republican. And so you never get to hear what a Republican, what their idea is. And they cannot defend themselves. And so I think we're all aware of that. And that's just what happened in New York. Again.
Well, they're the libs. They're angry.
They're good at it. Maybe that's what they're teaching them in school today.
Could be.
I don't know. Anyway, I personally knew Cleon Skelton. If you've ever read any of his books, they are worth reading. He was a phenomenal person, a wonderful person to know with great, great knowledge. So that's what I recommend, reading some of his books. And by the way, my book, I have one more thing to get into the publisher, and it'll be out.
Well, we look forward to having you on about it.
Oh, I'm so excited about it. Anyway, love hearing you every day, Kevin. Keep up all your good work.
All right. You take care. We love hearing from you.
Okay. Okay.
Bye-bye. Our friend Liberty Linda, and if you're just tuning in, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. For your listening pleasure, this was a debate that happened last night in New York.
Why didn't you release your taxes in 2010 when you ran? You didn't release them until after the election. I did more. You kept moving the goalposts.
I've released them for 20
moving the goalposts and have a whole different set of rules for me than you have for you, and I don't think that's fair.
I've released them for 20 years.
You know, you really want to see how powerful this new liberal millennial-led wave is. If Cynthia Nixon beats Governor Cuomo, Cynthia Nixon, the actress from Sex and the City, that will be the biggest upset ever in this political realm. One more thing about the millennial vote, and going back to the campaign for governor, there was one candidate that really focused in on the millennials, and if he had won, that would tell you that the millennials do seem to matter, at least on the Republican side, and that was Dr. Alquist. It hit me there as I continue to try and, like you recall, the ups and downs of the Republican primary for governor. I wish it was still going on personally, but that's my own personal preference. I love politics. But, you know, Dr. Alquist did a lot of social media, did a lot of outreach to the millennials, and that just didn't pan out. So at least in this election cycle in Idaho, which may be different across the country, the millennials were not a factor in the Republican primary. They could be somewhere else.
You don't snap your fingers as governor, and it happens.
Well, it
I
will never
propose
happen
it every
if you
year.
empower the IDC
Please, can you stop?
and give the Republicans
Can you please stop
control
interrupting?
of the state Senate.
Can you please do that?
If you stop lying, I will stop interrupting.
Coming up next, the president takes on Twitter and Google. And back to what Bill Geen said, William Geen, I mean, essentially Facebook and Google and Twitter are censoring conservatives. Is that a First Amendment issue, or is it unfettered crony capitalism? Plus, Micron gives us the boot and builds a $3 billion plant in Virginia. Why not Idaho? First Taiwan, now Virginia. Who's next? Maybe they could build in California. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
I think Google is really taking advantage of a lot of people, and I think that's a very serious thing, and it's a very serious charge.
And our charge to stand up against the wave of illiterate socialism propaganda, the dog whistles continuing to churn for the sound of socialism, not here on the champions of capitalism, KIDO Talk Radio, and of America. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The president saying the social media companies are discriminating against conservatives.
I think what Google and what others are doing, if you look at what's going on at Twitter, if you look at what's going on in Facebook, they better be careful because you can't do that to people.
But they do that to people. Who knows how much they've tried to limit the president's appeal.
Google and Twitter and Facebook, they're really treading on very, very troubled territory, and they have to be careful. It's not fair to large portions of the population.
He's right. What say you? Your call's next. First, traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio.
I'm just Channel 7's Eric Gibbert.
Coming up, how we defend our republic in the face of socialism. Those are heady topics before Glenn Beck. I'd love to hear from you next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And good morning. Blessed to be a part of your day. From the White House to your house, KIDO Talk Radio is your proud home for Fox News on the radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Joining us now live from the White House, John Decker from Fox News Radio. John, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you. How are you doing today, Kevin?
Not bad, but a big shakeup when it comes to the White House counsel leaving, and it seems that there aren't a lot of people that spend a long time in this administration. They come in and then they leave.
Well, that's true for certain people. In the case of Don McGahn, he had spent every day working as the White House counsel since day one. So he served well over a year and a half in that capacity, which is about the norm for that position, which is so demanding, no matter what administration you're talking about. The White House counsel sits in every major policy meeting at the White House, and Don McGahn shepherded the successful nomination of Neil Gorsuch last year, and he's doing the same for Judge Kavanaugh now. And after Judge Kavanaugh presumably gets confirmed by the Senate, that is essentially when he'll be departing the White House.
And the president taking to Twitter today. I'm very excited about the person who will be taking the place of Don McGahn as White House counsel. I liked Don, but he was not responsible, all caps not, for me not firing Bob Mueller or Jeff Sessions. So much fake reporting and fake news.
Yeah, so the president pushing back on some stories that have come out regarding the circumstances of Don McGahn's departure. But he had been planning to leave the White House. He had told his colleagues after this particular nomination gets through and is confirmed and is seated on the U.S. Supreme Court. As you know, the confirmation hearings for Judge Kavanaugh actually begin Tuesday of next week, the day after Labor Day. So his tenure at the White House, presumably, his departure, I should say, from the White House is pretty imminent. Given that the confirmation hearings will likely be 3 or 4 days of confirmation hearings next week.
Boy, it seems that we were just getting to know Judge Kavanaugh. You know him. You know these folks. You're a member of the D.C. Bar. What's it like, those work hours? We always hear the legendary work hours of hours billable, but when you're the White House counsel, it's like having a Visa card with no credit limit?
Yeah, kind of. It's a very demanding job. Mr. McGahn has done quite the service on behalf of the president, dealing with a number of things that have come up before the U.S. Supreme Court. You remember the president's executive order on immigration? Well, that executive order and the rewritten executive order and the rewritten executive order from that, all authored by the White House counsel's office. So he's been intimately involved with that particular issue, also making certain that dozens upon dozens of individuals that the president has nominated are confirmed for their positions on the federal bench. And then dealing with other things that may come up. The president's meeting with North Korea, the issue regarding pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, pulling out of the Paris Climate Change Accord. There's so many issues that the White House counsel has been involved in over the course of the past almost 2 years that President Trump has been in office.
John, finally, a couple days ago, for people that missed it, we wanted you, if you could, just to share your thoughts on John McCain as his body comes to Washington and then will be buried in Annapolis, your work for the McCain Foundation, Arizona State University, your years of covering him, your thoughts.
Well, John McCain was, to me, a great hero. He was just a remarkable American. His story is remarkable, and I think that his leaving us leaves a big hole, a big void in the U.S. Senate. He was the voice that so many senators look to on issues concerning national security and foreign affairs. And, you know, I've just had so much respect for Senator McCain over the years. You mentioned my work for the McCain Institute and moderating various debates that the McCain Institute has had over the years. Always a big thrill when Senator McCain was there. And, you know, just the first time I met Senator McCain was when I interviewed him for 1 hour about his father for my book, Great Dads, and that came out around the same time as his own book, Faith of My Fathers, in which he talked about, as he talked about in my book, the lessons he learned from his father, the values that were inculcated in him from an early age, and the things that, you know, he kept very near and dear to him throughout his life, throughout his time serving in the military and also in public service.
John, we always appreciate you. Enjoy the U.S. Open this weekend.
You know my plan well, Kevin. You know my plan well. I'll be there tomorrow, and I'll be there through Labor Day. So I look forward to it, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great Labor Day weekend.
Thank you, John. Take care, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our great friend, John Decker. I know what Jeff the Suit's saying right now. You say great friend all the time. Well, we're a friendly program, family friendly. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We go to Tom in Nampa concerning how we can stop socialism, first in Idaho and then in America. Tom, good morning.
Well, that isn't exactly what I said. Hey, I got on real quick. It was less than 2 minutes. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, well, don't tell everybody else right now.
Pardon?
What?
Oh, how's that?
All right, Tom, hang on. Tom was a bad boy. Let's go to Pro-Life on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro-Life.
Well, I'm going to answer the question that Tom was going to maybe answer, and that has to do with how to get rid of socialism. And to do that, you would have to get rid of the Republican and the Democrat parties. If you look at the Communist Manifesto, what it talks about is things like this. Communism comes in through income tax, inheritance tax, national bank, central banking, centralization of communications, regulation of business, and public education, and Social Security.
Right, so, but if we didn't have public education, how would we educate the kids?
Well, faith would have. The communists, they want to get rid of faith. But
right, but you didn't answer. You didn't answer my question.
Yeah, faith would.
And it's very rare that I ask you a question. We usually just hear the Pro-Life Manifesto and we say God bless afterwards. But okay, if you're going to get rid of public education, what's the alternative?
Well, there would be parish schools, there would be Mormon schools, there would be Baptist schools, there'd be all kinds of all kinds of faith education. It would have taken care of the whole thing because, you know, back before we had public education, before 1890, say, there were all kinds of religious schools, and they would take children in that couldn't pay for their school.
Wasn't that before the car?
Yeah, before the car, probably.
So we should go back to agrarian times.
No, we should go back to freedom times. That's not freedom has that's the most important thing. And so, we're democratic socialists right now. Both parties are. We'd have to have a third party that was a total non-socialist party, and we don't have that. You even take the Constitution Party. Some of those people have communist ideas.
Well, what would you like to say to the socialists that are monitoring this program and they fear that we're going to wake up the people in Idaho, wake up the people in America, that the socialism stops, no more Bernies?
Well, they need to themselves get on the right side of freedom because...
Well, why don't you say that? Hey, socialists.
Hey, socialists, there's a world, there's a judgment after this. You live forever, and you're going to find out that socialism is collective theft, and God's going to say you stole from people through government. You're going to have to take a lesser place in the next world.
That's right, socialists beware. Pro-life's on the case. Mark in Eagle, good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Kevin. Well, first, I hate to say pro-life and people out there. I agree with a lot of what pro-life just said. But, when you have people who don't believe in God, then they're not fearful of, going to the dark pit, you might say, or being condemned by a God because they don't believe in God in the first place. I want to make a point. Do you ever notice all these leftist, socialist progressives that are out there running for candidates, when they get in these debates with their counterparts, the Republicans, you notice that they seem to all learn the same diatribe as the left-wing media outlets when they have political debates on. They'll have conservatives on there, and you always get these left-wingers, the progressives, shouting. They can't state their point in an intellectual manner. They all act like a bunch of spoiled little children. They got to shout you down. That's the only way they can try to get their point across because they can't have a normal intellectual conversation because they're of a lower grade. They are a Neanderthal as far as I'm concerned because they cannot go and conduct a proper debate on air or what you just played earlier with Governor Cuomo.
Right. Hold on. Mark, let's just play that for people that are just tuning in.
Why didn't you release your taxes in 2010 when you ran? You didn't release them until after the election.
I
did more.
You
kept moving the goalposts.
I've released
you keep
them for
moving the goalposts and have a whole different set of rules for me than you have for you, and I don't think that's fair.
I've released them for 20 years.
Right. That's Governor Cuomo versus, I guess you would say, lesbian actress. Activist Cynthia Nixon.
You don't snap your fingers as governor, and it happens.
Well, it will never happen every if you empower the IDC
please, can you stop,
and give the Republicans control of the state Senate.
Can you please do that?
If you stop lying, I will stop interrupting.
In the old days, women were deferential to men.
Kevin?
Yeah, at least that's what they used to be on Mad Men when I saw it on television. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if I was still on there. No, you see, you just proved my point there. That's the only way they can get supposedly their screwball point across is by out-shouting everybody. Earlier, I'm glad, Kevin, you are probably the only person out there on Conservative Talk Radio who finally said what I've been wishing for years, decades, that we don't call them the Democrat Party anymore. We call them the Socialist Democrat Party because that's what they have manifested themselves into. This whole country has moved so far to left. John F. Kennedy, like I've said numerous times, would have been called a right-winger. And peg them from now on, people, the media. This includes Sean Hannity, going back. Everybody in Conservative Talk Radio out there, media outlets, need to call them Socialist Democrats like they like to call us conservative people out there, racists and bigots all the time. Peg them and peg a name on it from now on, Socialist Democrats. That will have an effect on people's minds. And the Republican Party needs to find a way to counteract people like this. Either you get up and walk away during the debate because they won't let you talk, they shoot them big mouths off, showing how low-grade intellect they are, or you find another way to deal with them, whether it's on these TV programs, Face Nature, whatever it might be, or on what you just played there earlier. I'll let you go on that. You have a good day, sir.
God bless, Mark. It's not education, it's indoctrination. And we here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, the Kevin Miller Show, the Miller Militia, we're going to be the inoculation. We're going to inoculate everyone from the virus that is socialism. How we do that, we'd love to hear from you next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Well, I don't know where his man card went. Terry, State College, Pennsylvania, good morning. Thank you for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning. That woman needs chocolate chip cookies filled with X-Lax. That would solve that problem quickly. Kevin, growing up where the Europeans settled, I've heard story after story after story growing up about communism. And our Sunday school teacher inadvertently would almost always get into communism. And I think the socialists they're seeing these communistic nations that have embraced a capitalism, which they did not embrace before. So it all looks good, it sounds good, but they don't really know the true history. And I think if they did, the socialism would not look nearly as attractive.
Well, really, let's face it, they've had 8 years of indoctrination under Obama when they were the most young and impressionable. They've been raised by video games, and they're taught that, the state should pay for everything. There's no incentive, and that's what we're up against. And now you have mainstream Democratic candidates led by avowed socialist Bernie Sanders. I've been battling Bernie for years from Vermont. All of a sudden, the first state to elect a major candidate that's a transgender. I don't know if those are mainstream American values, but Vermont, the home of socialist Bernie Sanders, it's infected the entire country, and you have kids saying, well, why not? Why shouldn't I get things? Now, on the other hand, it's because you have these godless corporations that stick it to everybody. Billions and billions and billions of dollars, right?
Billions. Kevin, I hope we don't embrace this. I cannot tell you. When you hear the stories such as, I went to get bread. Well, there was no bread, so I couldn't have any. I went to get meat, but there was no meat, so I couldn't get any. There was a hole in my roof. I went to get shingles. There were no shingles. I couldn't repair my roof. And that is, in essence, I have friends up in Canada, Eastern Canada, who takes them 3 months to get a doctor's appointment. 3 months. I mean, think about that. So I guess something I have to say to the crowd, if you like to be able to have the choice of what you wear, the shoes you got your feet, the comforter you have on your bed, the lawnmower that you buy, you embrace socialism, that will disappear.
Well, look, the state will provide you with something. Look at Cuba.
Yeah, look at Cuba. And look at the uniforms that they wore in China. And we wonder why. I had friends that were up in Alaska, and for years they were shipping Bibles into eastern Russia and eastern China via fishing boats. Hey, everybody has a uniform, and we wonder why they embraced Christianity. It's the only hope that they had in those countries. Only hope. So, but yet here we are in our society, and they think that socialism is the only hope.
Well, that's where we've got to stop them.
How far have we come?
How far have we fallen, brother?
This is insanity. Kevin, you're doing a great job as usual.
Thank you, Terry.
We appreciate the daylights out of it. You have a good day.
All right, you as well. Tom, welcome back. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
What happened? I was thanking you for getting me on so quick. Anyway, I'll make this kind of quick. I think if we are using these terms socialism, we need to define them and do it in a way that's very easy to understand. So you got 2 cows. Under socialism, the government takes 1 cow for the common good, and then from the milk of the other cow you get to keep, it takes an increasingly larger share. Under fascism, you get to keep the cows, but the government takes all the milk. Under Nazism, they take the 2 cows and then shoot you. Under communism, they take the cows and they just about starve them to death, and then they try, what little milk they do get, some of it, they try to give it back to you and then tell you work in the workers' paradise. Under capitalism, you sell one of the cows, buy a bull, which produce more cows, so you got more products, beef, and there's the beef.
I'll talk about when the cows come home.
Yeah, yeah, with Democrats, when it comes to votes, if they can't win, they keep counting until the cows come home, trying to change the outcome like they did in Florida in 2000. There is 2 places socialism will work, though, in heaven where they don't need it, and hell where they've already got it. Thank you.
Oh, God bless you, Tom. That was quick, efficient, and to the point. And when we're talking about economic systems, counting cows seems to work for me. Chris in Caldwell. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. How you doing this morning, sir?
Living the dream, brother, and you?
Well, I'm living something. But, so, on what Terry said, and it made me think, is Terry was talking about how, during the socialism is you don't have the choice, really. You have very limited options. It's just kind of what they give you is what you get. And now, and my observation is probably really off. But it seems like the bulk of the people that I talk to or that I've met that really embrace this socialism style of or way of life is, a lot of them are already on a social welfare program, but a lot of them don't have any money to do anything with anyway. So I think socialism is almost kind of what they have now. Because they don't have a lot of options. They're just hoping somebody else comes up with a better option to make their life a little easier. And
yeah, but you have Chris, you have the kids that were raised in the suburbs. Maybe they went to private school, maybe they went to college, and all of a sudden, hey man, I don't have to worry about student loans, don't have to worry about this. Let the government take it. Here's my pay, just give me a little pittance, and I'll trust the state more than I trust the individual.
And I get that, I honestly, I listen to you for my governmental advice, and then I listen to the Double Rays of Sunshine, Patriot Ray and Jr. That's where I get the bulk of my governmental stuff. But it just seems like where I'm at in Caldwell or in Idaho, it just seems like the bulk of people here don't have anything really, so it's just another free handout. And I know I'm wrong on that, but I'm socially and ethnically challenged because I grew up in Idaho. But I mean, and I'm sure somebody's going to comment on my stupidity, but I'm frustrated with it, and I don't know how to fix it. It seems like a train out of control, and I don't know how to stop it. My kids kind of want to follow that direction. And they weren't raised like that. I tried to raise them in a solid dictatorship of everything Dad knows is how it goes, but it doesn't work like that with kids anymore.
I don't know where we went wrong. I like that. Dad knows, that's how it goes.
That is. It's society is castrating parents.
Well, they did it to men a long time ago. Chris, thank you for the call. We're just full of optimism here right before Glenn Beck. Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Kevin Miller in the morning. Don't forget, coming up, KIDOTalkRadio.com. The Girls with Guns competition continues. And why not spend $3 billion in Idaho instead of Virginia? We'll do some in-depth studies on the Micron deal. KIDOTalkRadio.com. Good morning.